presents to the people. And sometimes the people, in discovering that they are in fact the chosen of God, but if we're not careful, even though we may be God's choice, it's not because we are righteous other than by nature, but by circumstances we've been made other than that. So when the Savior found us, he said that we had been made other than ourselves. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said of this, that the reason why he used that language, because if he had said that we were devils too, that would have been too harsh a blow for us, because we had already been made other than ourselves, or basically another way to say that, we had been made little devils. The white man had totally destroyed us, and as God said, let him make a man, then Satan said the same thing. I'm going to make a man, but the man he made was called Negro, which is not older than 500 years old. That's a new word that came from him after he made us into him, but yet less than him, because a Negro is a subtraction term. He subtracted our humanity, subtracted our knowledge of God. So now we're coming into that knowledge. And as we come into that knowledge, they say the sin of ignorance is God's apparent slowness to reward and or punish. So some of us in our journey and creating a gap between us and the man of God are now falling away from that man of God, as there has to be a falling away first from Satan, from white supremacy, from the government of America. Many of us have become what is called woke. But yet, in our so-called wokeness, in our so-called adhering and committing to my prayer, my sacrifice, my life and my death is all for Allah, some of us don't like the way of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which he raises to our attention all the time. Some of us want to kill the white man. Some of us want this thing to be over. But yet we don't realize that if it was over, many of us would not make it, let alone our family members and our friends. So because we tire now of the slowness of Allah to punish, to remove the white man, not mentioning the devil and the brown germ that's still in many of us. So then we fall away too from that man of sin. As he falls away from the man of God, then some of us who say we are with the man of God have already fallen away and are listening to every little person that tickles our imagination and no longer respond to sound doctrine, Brother Rodney.
Right.
I hope that answered your question.
All right. And we got Brother Marcel. I'll bring him on.
Yes, sir.
All right. Go ahead, Brother Marcel. All right.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yes, sir, brother. I was reading in my Bible, and with your opening that you were speaking on how steeped we are in the spooky reality of God. One of my favorite parts of the Bible is in the book of Acts in chapter 17. And I just want you to, unpackage this and give some more context to it, where Paul is debating with the wise men at that time in Athens. And he makes this statement, brother minister. He said, ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things you are too superstitious. For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, I declare unto you.
Beautiful. Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Brother Marcel, for that. What you just read, Brother Marcel, in the book of Acts is right in harmony, again, with the expression of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in that he said, for thousands of years, man has worshiped his own idea of God. Now, here, my Christian family has the Bible in their hands, and all these verses that you have raised, that Rodney has raised, that Stephen has raised, as a result of our exposure to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He has said these things, but yet, if you go right into the Bible that tricked us, they may have fixed it up, they may have twisted it up, but some things they just couldn't fix up, or either God did not allow them to mess up. And so here you go reading it now with a new mind. And if our Christian family would stop just being listeners, and study show thyself approved worthy, a workman rightly dividing the word of truth, who need not be afraid, then in that books of Acts that Paul is saying, I watch your devotions here and you worship an unknown God. How can you worship what you don't know? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said a mystery God means, the word mystery means to be unknown. Paul is telling them, you worship this unknown God. If you worship an unknown God, a mystery God, then you can be called a liar, because how can you teach what you know not yourself? So if our Christian family would read that with the understanding that you implied, even in your question, you were also giving an answer, Brother Marcel, because every rational-minded human being that has not been made irrational by the enemy would read that, and that alone should give you, if not total consciousness, it should have clicked on a flicker of light in your consciousness, in your mind, that Paul was telling them, you are worshiping an unknown God. You are worshiping spooks and spirits and mystics and foolishness. That's what that means from the teachings of the most honorable Elijah.